We did it right before we moved to Milwaukee.
Okay.
So we sold our condo, we quit our jobs, we put all our stuff in a storage container and had it shipped to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where we looked at each other and said, are we
Yep.
totally nuts? I know there are a lot of people in our lives that thought we were totally nuts. My husband and I were both very much avid hikers. We were kind of what you would call a weekend warrior for the
Okay.
most part.
Yeah.
I should also preface this by saying he grew up as a Boy Scout and is an Eagle Scout and
Oh, okay.
grew up
Yeah.
hiking and
Yeah,
camping
sure,
and
sure.
had all the wilderness skills.
Yeah.
I didn't start doing it until I met him. So the first time I ever slept in a tent in my life, I was 27 years old. So I just need to kind of put that perspective out there,
Yeah.
just so that anybody doesn't think that I'm some hardcore
Mm-hmm.
hiker. I did kind of become one after time. So we spent quite a bit of time planning it. It's something that takes a lot of planning because
Yeah.
you have to, we prepackaged a lot of our food. I was dehydrating food for months before the trip, and we had it all packaged up and had shipped out to us on various parts of the trail. And we ended up hiking about 1/3 of the trail. We didn't have, my husband thought it would be ridiculous to take 6 months off, which is about what it takes to hike the whole thing. I was kind of pushing for it, but anyway, I'm glad we didn't, because I quickly discovered that as incredible of an experience as it was, the challenge of through hiking, which is what they call people who try to go from end to end, which is from northern Georgia to Maine.
Yeah.
We went from Harper's Ferry, not far from Washington, D.C., and our goal was to finish at the north terminus in Maine, but we had a time constraint. We had to get off the trail for a wedding, so we basically walked until our time ran out, and unfortunately we made it to New Hampshire. So we didn't quite make it into Maine, which was a little bit of a disappointment to me. I tend to be a little goal-oriented. What I discovered was that I don't think I'm a through hiker. I think I'm more of a section hiker, because the challenge of through hiking is you need to get to the end. If that's your goal, you become very fixated on that. And I saw that with a lot of the hikers we were on the trail with, and I saw that in myself. I became obsessed with how many miles do we have to walk in order to hit, our targets. And in certain parts of your life, in your work life, that's a perfectly acceptable and, in fact, usually rewarded mentality and attitude to have. But I found that on this experience, which I went on, it was a personal challenge, but I also wanted it to be fun. I mean, what else in life are you going to take 3 months off and go backpacking with no obligations in the world other than what am I going to eat today and where am I going to sleep and what am I going to see? So I found that it was really eroding my fun to be that goal-oriented on the trip. And, I started observing, in some cases, hikers that would come to this beautiful vista, I mean, breathtaking vista, and they would look and then get back on the trail because they had to make 20 miles that day. And that really started to not sit well with me. And so our dream is to be able to finish the entire Appalachian Trail, but to do it in sections. So, maybe we'll do a week, in the Smoky Mountains and a week somewhere else, and maybe it'll take us 20 years to do what took us 3 months. But the thing I learned that it's more about the journey and the experience than the end point on the trail. And it took me a long time to come to that realization. It's not something I realized in the first couple of weeks of the trip. But the real challenge ended up being the psychological and emotional challenge of doing something like that. And those rigors were far more complex than the physical piece, because your body gets toned. I mean, you walk, it's going to naturally happen. But telling yourself to get up and keep moving forward every day, when it's raining, when you're hungry, when it's cold, that loses its appeal very, very, very quickly. And what we noticed were the hikers that were the most, it seemed to us, the most successful were the older hikers. And I think it has to do with the fact that they've been through so much in life. They've seen the ups and downs and have endured maybe challenging experiences in their life, and they were much more adept to pushing forward through the adversity than young people who maybe had the physical stamina but didn't necessarily have the emotional stamina to push through.